So, you're looking for a biblical counselor. That's a huge step, and finding someone you can truly trust is, well, everything. But in a world with so many options, how do you know who's actually safe? In this explainer, we're going to walk through a really practical guide to help you find care that's not just biblical, but also accountable and genuinely helpful.
First things first, let's just pause on this. I really want this to sink in. Deciding to seek help isn't a sign of weakness. Far from it. It's an act of profound courage. You're often doing this when you feel most vulnerable, and that makes the wisdom you use to find the right person all the more important. And that's the real challenge, isn't it? When you're in that vulnerable place, how do you cut through the noise and find someone you can actually trust with your story? That's what we're here to do. Give you a clear framework, a kind of roadmap for finding a counselor who is humble, safe, and accountable.
Okay, let's dive into that courageous first step. We need to talk about how to vet a potential counselor. And listen, this isn't about being cynical or suspicious. It's about being wise. It's about protecting yourself and building a really solid foundation for whatever healing journey you're about to start. Before we get into any techniques or certifications, we have to start with something way more fundamental. And that's the counselor's posture, their attitude. It matters just as much as their words, if not more. Are they humble? Are they teachable? Or do they come across as the expert who has it all figured out? This is absolutely critical. Which brings us right into our second section, posture, pride, and safety. See, before we ask what a counselor does, we really need to get a sense of who they are. So let's look at the huge difference between a posture that creates safety and, well, one that can do a lot of harm. And this comparison just lays it out so clearly. On the left, you've got the green flags of a humble posture. They're open to feedback, they admit they don't know everything, and, this is key, they invite oversight. They see what they do as a sacred trust. But on the right, that's the danger zone. Someone who acts like they have all the answers, who gets defensive, who basically views counseling as their own personal platform. Humility, you see, is the ultimate safeguard for you. And this is why that humility is so vital. Let's be really clear about this. An isolated counselor is a dangerous counselor, period. Counselors are human. They have blind spots just like the rest of us. If they're operating all alone, with no one to check their work or offer a different perspective, that's a recipe for disaster. And that idea of isolation leads us directly to the absolute heart of this whole guide. We're about to get to the single most important question you can ask any potential counselor. Seriously, this one question is the ultimate litmus test for humility, safety, and accountability. Here it is. It's simple, but it is so powerful. Are you under supervision or part of a consultation group? This means, do they have a trusted senior colleague or a group of peers who they regularly meet with to discuss their cases, confidentially of course, to make sure they're providing the best possible care? This isn't just some nice little add-on. A counselor who willingly puts themselves under authority like this is showing you they take your safety seriously. Now, how they answered this question tells you everything. A green flag answer is going to be positive and open. They won't get defensive at all. They'll talk about it like it's a good thing because for them, accountability is protection for you and for them. But if they get evasive or defensive or dismissive, like it's a silly question, that is a massive red flag. They're basically telling you they see accountability as a threat, not a safeguard. Okay, so that question about supervision is huge. But it doesn't exist in a vacuum, right? It's part of a bigger picture of trust that's built on a solid foundation of ethics and good training. So let's unpack what that looks like. A truly responsible counselor really operates with two layers of ethical commitment. The first is a commitment to biblical ethics, the deep principles of wisdom, prudence, and protecting the vulnerable that are all over Scripture. But then there's a second layer, professional ethics. These are the established standards for things like confidentiality and maintaining clear, healthy boundaries. A safe counselor doesn't pit these against each other. They embrace both. So here are some really practical questions you can ask to get a feel for their commitment to this stuff. A good counselor will have no problem giving you clear answers about how they handle confidentiality and boundaries. And pay close attention to that third one. A humble, safe counselor knows their own limits and will have a clear process for referring you to someone else if your issue is outside their area of expertise. It's also more than okay to ask about their training. You're looking for what you might call an integrated approach. The best care often comes from someone who has training in both theology and in solid, evidence-informed clinical practices.
This integration is so important because it helps protect against giving simplistic spiritual answers to really complex psychological problems. All right, we've covered a ton of ground, so let's pull it all together right now into a final, super actionable checklist. Think of this as your takeaway, your tool to help you make this incredibly important decision with confidence. Okay, here are the green flags. These are the positive signs you're looking for. A good counselor will welcome your questions. They'll have clear written policies. They'll speak with compassion, not shame. And notice number 3, right there at the heart of it. They are under regular supervision and have no problem telling you about it. And on the flip side, here are the red flags to avoid. And what's number 1 on the list? You guessed it, someone who dismisses supervision as unnecessary. That's a deal breaker, folks. Other major warning signs include blurry boundaries, using scripture as a weapon, or just getting vague and weird when you ask about their basic policies. So when all is said and done, it really all boils down to this one final question. It's not about how famous a counselor is or how many books they've written. The real question is this: are they humble enough to be held accountable? Because ultimately, your safety and your healing could very well depend on that answer. This explainer was based on the fantastic resource, A Practical Guide to Finding a Safe Biblical Counselor from Restoring Hope Ministries. Thanks so much for joining us, and we truly wish you courage and wisdom on your journey toward healing.